You've been told all your life that you can't have it all. That life is about compromise, that you should be realistic. And maybe, just maybe, you've even started to believe it. But deep down, there's still that fire, that whisper in the back of your mind that says there's more for you. Here's the truth. Every person you admire, every success story you've ever heard, every world changer you've ever read about started exactly where you are right now. A desire. They weren't born lucky. They weren't handed a map. They built their life from the ground up, brick by brick, decision by decision. And right now, I want you to forget every excuse, every limitation, every story you've been telling yourself about why you can't. Because I'm about to hand you something most people will never get in their lifetime, the exact framework for getting anything you want. Not someday. Nah, if you're lucky. But starting right now, if you stay with me for the next few minutes, I'm going to pull back the curtain on the 6 core principles that will turn your dreams from vague wishes into reality you can touch. And when you apply them, you won't just achieve more. You'll become someone unstoppable. So if you're tired of waiting, if you're done watching other people live the life, you know you could and lean in. What I'm about to share will not only change what you get out of life, it will change who you are in life. Most people say they want more out of life. But if I stopped you right now and asked, exactly do you want? Most of you would hesitate. You'd give me a vague answer like more money, more happiness, a better life. But let's get real. What does that even mean? If you can't define it, if you can't describe it so clearly that you can see it in your mind like a photograph, you'll never create it. The universe, life, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't reward wishful thinking. It rewards precision. It rewards clarity. It rewards those who have taken the time to map out exactly what they want down to the last detail. Think about it. When you get in a car and you type a destination into your GPS, it doesn't say, okay, let's go somewhere nice. No, it asks for the exact address, the street, the number, the city, and it calculates the best route. Without that address, you could drive in circles for hours, burning fuel, wasting time, and ending up nowhere. That's exactly how most people live their lives. They're driving every single day, but with no clear address. They confuse movement with progress. They work harder and harder, but they don't know where they're going, so they never arrive. You get ruthlessly clear on what you want, something powerful happens. Your brain starts filtering the world differently. It's like buying a new car. Suddenly, you start seeing that exact model everywhere. It was always there. You never noticed it before because your mind wasn't looking for it. The same thing happens with your goals. Once you define exactly what you want, your brain starts spotting opportunities, resources, and connections that were invisible to you before. It's not magic, it's focus. But here's the challenge. Clarity doesn't come from sitting around and hoping it will arrive. Clarity comes from asking yourself better questions and pushing yourself to answer them honestly. What do I really want? Why do I want it? How will I know when I've achieved it? What will my life look like, feel like, and sound like when I get there? And here's the kicker. If your answers aren't specific enough to create a mental movie that plays in your mind, they're not clear enough. Most people avoid getting specific because it forces them to confront what's missing in their life. They don't want to admit they've been drifting. They don't want to face the fear that maybe they're not capable of achieving something big. So instead, they keep their dreams vague because a vague dream is safe. It's impossible to fail at something that has no definition. If you keep your dreams vague, you also keep them out of reach forever. You've got to strip away the fluff and dig deep. If you say you want more money, how much exactly? Enough to pay off debt, enough to retire, enough to take your family on a 6-month vacation. If you say you want a better relationship, what does that look like? More trust, more passion, more time together. If you say you want to get in shape, what does that mean for you? Running a marathon, feeling confident in your clothes, having the energy to play with your kids. Without those details, you're just wishing. And wishing doesn't change lives, decisions do. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what if I pick the wrong goal? If I change my mind later? Here's the truth. You can always adjust your destination, but you can't adjust something you never said in the first place. You can't steer a parked car. The act of deciding, of choosing a clear target, is what gives you the ability to course correct along the way. People think they need the perfect plan before they start. No, you need a clear vision before you start. The plan will reveal itself as you move. Let me give you an example. Years ago, I worked with someone who told me they wanted to be successful. That was it, no definition, no specifics. I pushed them. What does successful look like for you? Is it a certain income, a type of career, a lifestyle? Does your day look like when you wake up in that life? At first, they resisted. They'd never thought about it in detail. But when they finally defined it, down to the type of home they lived in, the way they dressed, the work they did, people they spent time with, everything shifted. 6 months later, they were making decisions and taking actions they never would have considered before. Why? Because now they knew exactly where they were headed. Clarity is also a filter. You know exactly what you want. You know exactly what to say no to. Most people's lives are filled with things they said yes to out of obligation, guilt, or fear of missing out. They fill their calendars with other people's priorities, wonder why they don't have time for their own. But when your vision is clear, decisions become easy. If something doesn't move you closer to your goal, it's a no. And that no is not rejection. It's protection. It's protecting your time and your focus. And don't underestimate the emotional side of clarity. When your vision is crystal clear, it fuels you on the days you feel tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed. It reminds you why you started. It gives you a reason to push through the discomfort and keep going when most people quit. Vague goals can't do that. Vague goals don't inspire you when things get hard. They just fade into the background. Some people hear this and say, life is unpredictable. You can't plan everything. And that's true. You can't control everything that happens, but you can control what you aim for. You can control what you focus on. And when life throws you a curveball, your clarity is what helps you adapt instead of collapse. Without it, every setback feels like the end. With it, every setback is just a detour on the way to somewhere you've already decided you're going. This isn't about perfection. It's about direction. It's about deciding that you refuse to live another day with a blurry vision of your future. It's about making your desires so specific that they become a pull, drawing you forward like gravity. And once that pull takes hold of you, it's only a matter of time before you arrive exactly where you intended. If you're serious about getting whatever you want, you've got to stop treating your desires like distant fantasies and start treating them like destinations you've already chosen. Because the moment you lock in that address, the moment you make that vision crystal clear, the journey truly begins. There's a massive difference between wanting something and deciding you're going to have it. Most people confuse the two. They think their desire alone will somehow push them over the finish line. Let me tell you, desire without decision is nothing more than a daydream. It's that little spark that feels exciting for a moment, but the second life gets busy or hard, it disappears. Decision, on the other hand, is a point of no return. It's the moment you draw the line in the sand and say, this is happening. No matter what, I will not stop until it's real. We live in a world where people love to try. They'll try to start a business, try to get in shape, try to change their life. But trying is nothing more than giving yourself permission to quit when it gets uncomfortable. You've got to eliminate the option of turning back. Once you decide, truly decide, you start looking for the exit and start looking for the way through. That's when your mind starts working differently. It stops scanning for reasons you can't and starts obsessively searching for ways you can. Think about the biggest shifts in your life so far. They didn't happen because you thought something would be nice to have. They happened because you made a decision that there was no other option. If you've ever quit a job, ended a toxic relationship, started something that completely changed your life, it wasn't because you wanted to. It was because you decided to. That decision created an internal energy that made you act differently, speak differently, and think differently. That's the key. Once you decide, your behavior aligns with your commitment. The problem is most people leave the back door open. They make a half decision. They say, want this, but secretly keep an escape route in case it's harder than they thought. And when things inevitably get hard, they take that escape without a second thought. You can't play that game and expect extraordinary results. You have to burn the ships. You have to remove every exit except forward. That's when your creativity, your resourcefulness, and your resilience reach levels you didn't even know you had. Let's be real. There's a reason so few people truly get what they want. Decision is uncomfortable. It's scary. It forces you to confront your own limitations and commit to pushing past them. When you decide, you're making a public declaration to yourself and sometimes to the world that you're going to make something happen. That means if you fail, there's no hiding. That's exactly why most people never decide. They're afraid of the responsibility that comes with it. But here's the truth. Once you decide, the fear doesn't go away, but it transforms. It stops being the fear of starting and becomes the fear of stopping. You'll still feel the doubt, but it will no longer control you. Instead, it will remind you that you're doing something that matters. Decision is the spark that keeps the fire alive when the excitement wears off and all that's left is the grind. Now, don't mistake decision for motivation. Motivation is a feeling, it's fleeting. Decision is a choice. It's the anchor you hold on to even when the seas get rough. Motivation gets you started, but decision is what keeps you moving when you're tired, discouraged, or tempted to quit. You can't wait for motivation to show up every day. It won't. You can lean on a decision you've already made. Think about an athlete training for the Olympics. Do you think they feel motivated every morning when the alarm goes off at 5 a.m.? No. But they've made a decision. They've locked in a commitment so strong that the question isn't, do I feel like it today? It's, how do I get it done today? Decision removes debate. It removes hesitation, removes the endless back and forth in your head about whether you should or shouldn't. You've already decided. You just act. And here's the thing. Once you truly decide, you become magnetic. People sense it in the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, the way you go after things. They can feel that you're not just interested, you're invested. You'll notice that opportunities start showing up more often. It's not luck. It's that your decision sharpens your focus. That focus attracts the people, ideas, and resources you need. Sometimes the hardest part is making that decision in the first place. We hesitate because we want guarantees. We want to know exactly how it will work out before we commit. That's not how life works. You don't get certainty up front. You create it through action. The moment you decide, you step into the unknown. And that's where the growth happens. That's where you discover what you're truly capable of. I've seen people transform their lives in a matter of months simply because they finally decided. They stopped playing small. They stopped dipping their toes in the water and dove in headfirst. It's not that everything suddenly became easy. It's that their decision created a different standard for themselves. They stopped accepting excuses from themselves or anyone else. They stopped negotiating with their goals. When you stop negotiating, you start winning. Sometimes people say, what if I decide and I fail? My answer is simple. Failure is feedback. If you decide and fail, you learn, you adapt, you adjust, and then you decide again. The only true failure is never deciding in the first place, because then you never even gave yourself the chance to succeed. A weak decision leads to a weak effort, and a weak effort leads to a weak result. A strong decision, one made with your whole heart and no backup plan, that's where you find out just how far you can go. The bottom line is this: until you decide you're just flirting with your dreams, you're standing on the edge, wonder what it might be like to fly, but never jumping. Decision is the leap. It's the moment you stop hoping and start claiming. And when you make that kind of decision, the world starts to move in ways you never expected. If you want to get whatever you want, you have to stop treating your dreams like options and start treating them like obligations. Because once you decide, there's no turning back, only moving forward until it's yours. You can have all the clarity in the world about what you want, and you can make the most unshakable decision of your life. But if deep down you don't believe you're capable of getting it, you'll sabotage yourself every single time. Beliefs are the foundation of everything you do or don't do. They're like invisible scripts running in the background of your mind, shaping every choice, every risk you take, every opportunity you notice or ignore. And here's the hard truth. Most people are living their lives not according to reality, but according to the limits of their beliefs. We all carry these invisible walls in our minds. They're built from past experiences, things people have told us, conclusions we've drawn about ourselves over the years. Maybe you tried something once and failed, so now you know it's not for you. Maybe someone told you weren't smart enough, talented enough, or connected enough. You took that on as truth. Or maybe you grew up seeing people struggle, so you came to believe that success was for other people, not people like you. These beliefs become so ingrained that you stop questioning them. You think you're just being realistic, when in reality, you're just reinforcing a prison you built in your own mind. The thing about beliefs is they're self-fulfilling. If you believe something is impossible, take the actions that would make it possible. And because you don't take those actions, you never get the result, which only reinforces the original belief. It's a loop. Belief drives action. Action creates results. Results reinforce belief. The only way to break that cycle is to challenge the belief itself. People often say, I'll believe it when I see it. But the truth is, you'll see it when you believe it. Until you shift your internal story, you won't even notice the doors that are open for you. You'll walk past opportunities because your mind has already decided they're not for you. It's not that the opportunities aren't there. It's that your beliefs are filtering them out before you even have a chance to act. So how do you change those beliefs? You start by getting brutally honest about the ones you're carrying right now. Ask yourself, what do I believe about my ability to achieve my goals? What do I believe about money, about success, about relationships, about my own worth? Then ask yourself where those beliefs came from. Are they based on actual truth, on someone else's opinion? Are they based on one bad experience you had years ago? Are they even yours? Or did you inherit them from your family, your culture, or the environment you grew up in? Once you identify them, you've got to replace them with something that actually serves you, and that doesn't mean just repeating positive affirmations in the mirror. You can't just slap a new belief over an old one and expect it to stick. You've got to give your brain evidence. You've got to take small, consistent actions that prove to yourself that the new belief is valid. If you believe you're not confident, start putting yourself in situations that build confidence. If you believe you can't earn more money, start surrounding yourself with people who do and learn exactly how they do it. Each little win, each little piece of proof chips away at the old belief and reinforces the new one. This is why environment matters so much. If you're surrounded by people constantly reinforce your old limitations, it's going to be nearly impossible to believe something new. But if you're around people who expect more from themselves and from you, standards will rise. You start to see that the ceiling you thought was fixed was actually just a story you'd been telling yourself. The most powerful shifts you can make is to change the question you ask yourself when you face something that feels out of reach. Most people ask, can I do this? And the moment that question hits their mind, all their old doubts flood in. If you change the question to, how can I do this? Your brain stops looking for reasons you can't and starts looking for strategies to make it happen. That one shift in language can transform your belief system because it forces your mind into problem-solving mode instead of self-defeating mode. The truth is you already have the ability to create massive change. You just haven't given yourself permission to believe it. Belief isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything's easy. It's about choosing a reality that empowers you instead of traps you. It's about saying, even if I don't know exactly how yet, willing to believe it's possible. That willingness is the seed that grows into unshakable certainty. You also have to understand that your brain is wired to keep you safe, not to make you successful. It's designed to avoid pain, discomfort, Risk. That means the moment you start stretching beyond your current reality, your mind will throw every doubt, fear, and excuse at you to pull you back. If you take those thoughts as truth, you'll shrink back to your comfort zone. If you recognize them as just protective reflexes, you can push through them. Over time, your brain learns a new pattern. Discomfort doesn't mean danger. It means growth. Belief work is not a one-time thing. You don't just wake up one day with a new set of empowering beliefs and never have to think about it again. It's something you cultivate day after day. It's catching yourself when an old thought creeps in and saying, no, that's the old story. The new story is, it's surrounding yourself with proof that your new belief is valid. It's taking action even when you still feel the doubt, because action is what cements belief. And here's the beautiful part. Once you rewire your beliefs, everything else becomes easier. You don't have to force yourself to take massive action. It becomes natural because your actions are now aligned with what you believe about yourself. You don't have to talk yourself into opportunities. You start expecting them, and so you spot them faster and act on them quicker. You don't have to constantly battle yourself because you're no longer fighting against your own mind. You believe you start to live in a way that makes it inevitable. Your decisions change, your standards rise, your persistence grows. You stop seeing obstacles as walls and start seeing them as puzzles to solve. That's when getting whatever you want stops being a fantasy and starts being a matter of time. Because at the end of the day, the life you're living right now is just the physical expression of the beliefs you've been carrying. Change those beliefs, you change everything. You can have clarity, you can make the strongest decision of your life, and you can believe with every fiber of your being that it's possible. But none of that means anything if you don't take massive, relentless action. I'm not talking about doing a little bit here and there when you feel like it. I'm talking about action so consistent, so intentional, and so persistent that it becomes impossible not to make progress. Too many people wait for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect feeling before they act. They think once everything lines up, then they'll go all in. But the truth is that day never comes. Waiting for perfect is the ultimate trap. It's just a sophisticated form of procrastination dressed up as preparation. The difference between the people who get what they want and the ones who just talk about it is that the doors don't wait. They start before they feel ready. They take the first step, even if they can't see the whole staircase. They understand that momentum isn't something you get before you start. It's something you create by starting. And once you start, you don't stop. You keep showing up day after day, even when you're tired, even when you're bored, even when it feels like nothing's working. Most people quit too soon. They try something for a week or two, maybe a month. When they don't see massive results, they decide it's not working. But the truth is, they've barely scratched the surface. Success rarely shows up in the beginning. In fact, the early stages often feel like you're pushing a boulder uphill. You're putting in more effort than you're getting back. And that's where most people tap out. They don't realize that every push, every step, every tiny action is building invisible momentum. And when that momentum finally kicks in, it's like gravity takes over. You can't stop the results from coming. The other trap people fall into is thinking action means random business. They confuse movement with progress. They fill their days with activity, not the kind of activity that actually moves them closer to their goals. This is where strategy comes in. Relentless action doesn't mean mindlessly doing more. It means doing more of the right things. It means identifying the actions that produce the greatest results and doing them over and over again until they become second nature. And here's the thing. When you commit to relentless action, you've got to be ready for setbacks. You've got to expect them because they will come. There will be days when everything seems to go wrong. There will be moments when the effort feels pointless. There will be people who doubt you, criticize you, or try to pull you back. And in those moments, people slow down or stop altogether. But if you're relentless, you don't. You adjust, you adapt. You find another way. You keep going, not because it's easy, but because you've already decided that stopping isn't an option. Relentless action also requires you to get comfortable with discomfort. There will be days you don't feel like doing the work. Days when your mind tells you, take it easy. You've earned a break. But that's the voice of your old self trying to pull you back into mediocrity. You've got to recognize that voice for what it is and push through anyway. Because every time you take action in spite of that voice, rewiring your mind, you're proving to yourself that you're in control, not your excuses. There's also a compounding effect to relentless action that most people underestimate. At first, your actions might seem small and insignificant. Maybe you're making a few calls, posting a little content, working out for 20 minutes, studying for half an hour. On their own, these actions don't look like much, but over time, they stack. And when they stack, they compound. Suddenly, the calls you made months ago are turning into opportunities. The workouts are turning into visible changes in your body. The studying is turning into mastery. The results always seem to happen all of a sudden. To the outside world, you'll know they didn't happen all of a sudden. They were built one relentless action at a time. One of the biggest lies people believe is that success is about one big break or one big leap. It's not. It's about thousands of small, deliberate steps taken consistently over time. It's about showing up when most people have already quit. It's about refusing to let a single day go by without doing something that moves you forward, no matter how small it seems. Here's something else. When you take massive, relentless action, you create separation. Most people dabble. They do a little, then stop. They wait to see how it goes before they commit more. But when you go all in, you show up with intensity and consistency, you leave them behind, you build an advantage that they can't catch up to because you've outworked them, outlasted them, and outlearned them. Relentless action isn't glamorous. It's not always exciting. In fact, a lot of it is repetitive and unsexy. It's doing the basics over and over until you've mastered them. It's saying no to distractions, even the ones that seem harmless. It's keeping your head down and working while everyone else is talking. It's having the patience to keep going long after the novelty has worn off. And here's the beautiful thing. Once you make relentless action a habit, it stops feeling like a grind. It becomes who you are. You no longer have to push yourself every day because taking action is just part of your identity. And when it's part of your identity, you don't have to rely on motivation, willpower, or inspiration. You just do it the same way you brush your teeth or put on your shoes. You don't think about it, you just act. The world doesn't give rewards to people who almost took action. It doesn't hand out prizes for good intentions. It rewards the people who kept showing up day after day, no matter how they felt, no matter what was happening around them. Those are the people who break through. Those are the people who get whatever they want. Because at the end of the day, relentless action is the bridge between your dreams and your reality, and no one else can walk that bridge for you. You can be clear on what you want, make an unshakable decision, believe it's possible, even take massive action. But if you're trying to do all of that in the wrong environment, you're fighting an uphill battle. Your environment is either feeding your vision or slowly killing it. It's either giving you energy and momentum or draining you until you give up. And here's the reality most people don't want to face. You can be the most driven, determined, and disciplined person in the room. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, doubt, or complacency, it will eventually rub off on you. We are influenced more than we realize by the people we spend the most time with. You pick up their habits, their standards, their way of thinking. The people around you think small, settle for less, or constantly make excuses. It's only a matter of time before you start to absorb that mindset. You might not even notice it happening. It's subtle. A joke about how success is for lucky people here. A warning about not getting your hopes up there. Little comments that seem harmless but slowly erode your hunger, your belief, your willingness to go all in. But the reverse is also true. If you surround yourself with people who think big, who expect more from life, who push themselves and encourage you to push yourself, your standards will rise. You'll start to see possibilities you didn't see before. You'll notice that their courage becomes your courage, their discipline becomes your discipline, their energy becomes your energy. That's the power of association. It shapes you whether you're aware of it or not. This doesn't mean you have to cut everyone out of your life who isn't on the same path as you. But it does mean you need to be intentional about who gets the most access to your time, your attention, and your energy. Some people should be in your life in smaller doses because their presence drains you more than it fuels you. Others should be front and center because every time you're around them, you leave better than you came. Your environment isn't just people, it's everything you allow into your world. It's the books you read, the videos you watch, the social media you consume. It's the conversations you engage in, the spaces you work in, the habits you practice daily. If you fill your mind with content that inspires you, challenges you, and teaches you something new, you start to think and act differently. But if you fill your mind with gossip, negativity, and distractions, you start to think and act like that instead. Your physical space matters too. If your environment is chaotic, cluttered, and uninspiring, it's hard to feel focused and driven. If you create a space that reflects your vision, a space that energizes you and reminds you of where you're going, it becomes easier to show up every day ready to move forward. Something as simple as putting reminders of your goals where you can see them or creating a work area that's free of distractions can have a huge impact on your consistency and focus. The environment you build should be one that reinforces your identity as someone who gets what they want. That means having people who hold you accountable, spaces that help you focus, and inputs that keep your mindset sharp. Accountability is huge here. It's easy to make promises to yourself in private, but when you tell someone you trust and respect that you're going to do something, it creates a different level of commitment. You don't want to let them down. When that person also challenges you to keep raising your standards, you start to grow at a pace you couldn't achieve alone. This is also why you need to be around people who are ahead of you in some way. It's not about comparison. It's about exposure. When you see firsthand what's possible, when you witness people living at a higher standard than you thought was realistic, it destroys your excuses. It forces you to realize that the only thing separating you from that level is the gap in your actions, your mindset, or your habits, and all of those can be changed. The fastest ways to accelerate your growth is to intentionally design your environment so that success becomes the default, not the exception. That means setting up your life in a way where the easiest choice is the one that moves you closer to your goals. If you want to eat healthier, fill your kitchen with healthy options and remove the junk. If you want to work out more, Keep your workout gear visible and accessible. If you want to grow your business, keep tools, notes, and reminders close so you can act on ideas quickly instead of letting them fade. The wrong environment makes everything harder than it needs to be. The right environment makes progress almost automatic. It removes unnecessary friction. It keeps you focused, and it reinforces the identity you're building. And when you combine that with the right associations, people who are moving forward, thinking bigger and expecting more, you create a powerful force that pulls you toward your goals, even on the days you feel like slowing down. The truth is, most people underestimate just how much their environment is influencing them. They think it's all about willpower, but willpower is fragile. It fades. Your environment is there every single day, either supporting you or sabotaging you. That's why it's not just important, it's essential to take control of it. Because no matter how strong you are, if you live in an environment that constantly contradicts your vision, eventually it will wear you down. But if you build one that supports you, it will lift you up even when your own strength feels low. You put yourself in the right environment with the right people, and you feed your mind with the right inputs. You don't have to fight so hard to stay on track. It becomes the natural outcome of the world you've created for yourself. That's when you realize that getting whatever you want isn't just about effort. It's about positioning yourself in a place where success becomes inevitable. Most people have a vision of what they want. They stop short because they think the path should feel comfortable. They've been conditioned to believe that if something feels hard, it means it's not meant for them. But the truth is, anything worth having is going to demand something from you. It's going to require that you lean into discomfort, that you face resistance head on, and that you grow into the person capable of holding what you're asking for. The problem isn't that people don't have dreams. The problem is they quit at the first sign of friction. Every single breakthrough you want in life is hiding behind something you've been avoiding. That conversation you've been putting off. That decision you've been delaying. That skill you've been telling yourself you'll work on when things slow down. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't talent or luck. It's your willingness to step into situations that stretch you, scare you, challenge you in ways you've never been challenged before. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Comfort is where your habits live, where your current results live, where your identity as it is today lives. When you start to push yourself, when you make the call, when you show up to the meeting you feel unprepared for, when you keep going even after you've been rejected, you start to create a different version of yourself. One that's resilient, that's resourceful, one that refuses to back down just because things got tough. You have to understand that discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the signal that you're doing something new, something that has the potential to change your life. Too many people interpret that signal as danger and retreat back into safety. But safety doesn't give you more options. Safety doesn't expand your capacity. Safety keeps you in the same cycle year after year, just wishing for something better while staying in the exact same place. The people who get what they want aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who've trained themselves to move forward in spite of it. They've learned to see fear as a green light, a sign that they're heading towards something worth pursuing. They know that the first time they try something new, it's going to feel awkward, maybe even painful, but that's the cost of growth. They don't look for the easy path. They look for the path that will make them stronger. And here's the thing. When you start to make a habit of leaning into discomfort, something shifts. What used to terrify you becomes normal. The things that once intimidated you become just another part of your day. Your capacity grows. Your confidence grows. And because you've proven to yourself over and over again that you can handle whatever comes your way, you start to approach challenges with a different energy. You stop avoiding them and you start seeking them out because you know that's where the next level is hiding. It's like building a muscle. The first time you lift a heavy weight, it's uncomfortable. Your body wants to quit. But every rep, every set, every time you push past that burning sensation, you get stronger. And just like in the gym, life is constantly handing you weights in the form of challenges, obstacles, opportunities to grow. The question is, are you picking them up or are you walking past them because they feel too heavy? Every single time you choose to step into discomfort, instead of running from it, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. You're telling yourself, I can handle more than I thought. And the more you prove that to yourself, the bigger your vision becomes. Because now you're not just dreaming, you're building the capacity to handle what you've been dreaming about. But here's the danger. You can't just do it once and think you're done. You can't step out of your comfort zone one time and expect your life to magically transform. This has to become a lifestyle. It has to be woven into the way you operate every single day. You have to keep finding those edges where you feel that mix of fear and excitement and push yourself to go further. If you're not feeling that regularly, it's a sign you've started coasting, and coasting always leads downhill. This is why discipline matters so much here. You won't always feel like stepping into discomfort. You won't always be motivated. If you make it a standard, if you decide that you are the kind of person who does the hard thing, even when it's inconvenient, you start to develop a kind of power that most people never tap into. That's the power to trust yourself no matter what. Think about what that would do for you. If you trusted yourself completely, if you knew without a doubt that you would show up for yourself in the hard moments, what would you go after? How much bigger would you dream? How much faster would you move? Most people let fear decide for them. They let it dictate their actions, their pace, their limits. But when you decide that fear is not the end of the road, but the starting line, whole life changes. You're never going to get to the next level without passing through discomfort. You can't skip it, you can't hack it, and you can't outsource it. The only way is through. And when you go through it enough times, you make it your habit, your advantage, your way of living. You become unstoppable. Not because things got easier, but because you got stronger. If you can wire yourself to step toward the very things you've been avoiding, you'll find that the life you've been chasing is waiting for you on the other side of those uncomfortable moments. That's the price. That's the path. That's the truth.